You're listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.
This episode.
Our lips are sealed about this week's Fab Fact.
We are lost in time in the Randomiser.
Cut! That was perfect, but let's just get one more take with director Sam Clemens.
All coming up in Pod 194.
Of the Gerry Anderson Podcast.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
I don't know why you're laughing at me, Richard James.
It's just my default position, really. I just find you very amusing.
Oh dear. Anyway, I'm feeling much amused.
Yeah, good.
My name's Jamie Anderson.
Yes.
And you are?
Oh, well, I'm still Richard James. I always will be. Yeah, as far as I'm aware.
Well, that's an absolute shocker. Now, over there... Well,
What?
What is he doing today?
What? Who? Eh?
Well, it seems that Chris Dale, that is,
yes.
sorry, somebody may not be familiar with him, is currently installing a Spectrum cloud-based style monitor in my kitchen.
He is? What? Why is he doing that?
Perhaps considering himself to be the Colonel White of this podcast, do you think?
Oh, well, I mean, he's got a good claim for that, I think.
Yeah, I didn't know he'd be so handy with a screwdriver, I've got to say, but... it looks quite smart. It's quite large. Anyway,
It is, isn't
perhaps
it?
he'll be building a Colonel White-style spinny control desk as well before the end of this episode. Now, once Chris is finished with his Spectrum-style DIY, his SIG DIY...
Oh, yeah, good.
Yeah, terrible. He'll be bringing us the Randomiser, where he randomly watches a random episode of a random Gerry Anderson series and gives you his not-so-random, very considered, thoughtful, and quite amusing thoughts and comments. That'll be at the end of this podcast, but before then... We've got other stuff coming, and my colleague Richard James will take you through those things now.
Well, I mean, we're really sort of treading water, aren't we, until the Randomiser? That's all we're here for, really.
The Treading Water podcast.
We're just marking time, aren't we, really, till the main feature. That's why we don't have the Randomiser first, because then people would just switch off and not listen to us. That's why we leave it till last.
Yeah.
But, yes, until the Randomiser, you've got all this to sit through. We've got Fab Facts coming up in just a moment, of course, whereby Jamie will be giving us a random fact from the Gerry Anderson universe, and it's up to me to decide if it's fab or not.
Is it?
You'll find. Yes. We've got some newsy news from the Gerry Anderson universe. I think we've got part 2, Jamie, of your interview with director Sam Clemens. Is that correct?
Sam Clemens is back for part 2, yes. It's a bit less of a... legacy dad's cast this week. A bit more about the shows, but we do touch on more of it as well. So, and also I should say, last week, lots of people tweeted me to say, of course your dad and Brian knew each other. Brian wrote several episodes of The Protectors.
There we go.
Well, there you go.
Yes.
There's evidence if there ever there was that, one, I don't like or watch The Protectors, and two, perhaps more importantly, that I am not the expert in all things Anderson.
Are you not?
I'm just another bloke like the rest of you out there.
Oh, how disappointing.
Well, it's pretty much true. The only thing is, nepotism, really. It's I just happen to be born in the right place at the right time. With the right dad. So, but thank you for your corrections and for not admonishing me too severely.
Yeah, people are very good at corrections, aren't they, on Twitter, I've noticed.
Very, very
Yes,
good.
very handy. I've got a few myself coming up in this podcast, as you'll see in a moment. Because, of course, the Podstrons have been getting in touch, and I'll be reading out their emails. They've been sending them in to podcast@gerryanderson.com. I'll be reading out their Facebook musings, which they've been leaving on our Facebook group, and I'll be reading out some Twitterings and also some comments from our YouTube channel, too. So all that coming up, let alone the Randomiser, which is about an hour away.
I know, there's so much stuff.
Yeah, isn't there?
Oof.
Every week.
Well,
Every blooming week.
And there's a lot of news this week as well, I think. So,
good.
Anyway, look, because there's so much to get through, shall we just go straight in to Fab Facts?
Oh, can't we just do a bit more treading water?
No, it's Fab Facts now.
Oh, curses.
Now, time for this week's Fab Facts.
Here we go. I've got a book of
Right.
fab facts, Richard James.
Yes, I know.
This is the sound of my fingers tapping on the book of fab facts. Did you like that?
Oh, yeah, I do like that.
Normally I
Yeah.
slap it or flick it or whatever, but this time finger tap. Anyway, the book of fab facts is rather large. It's many hundreds of pages, in fact, and I'm going to flick through it. Richard's going to shout fab at a random point, which will stop me flicking through, when I will hopefully happen upon a fab fact. Richard James, are you prepared, primed and ready with your fab?
I'm standing very by.
Okay, here we go with the flicking.
Fab!
Ooh. Well, bearing in mind that we've got the Stingray Blu-ray release coming up, this is most appropriate that you've stopped us in 1963-64. Now, Marina. Aquamarina.
Yes.
I mean, who doesn't like a bit of Marina? Well, obviously Troy Tempest. And Chris Dale seems to get along with her as they voyage across the Anderverse for the Randomiser.
That's right.
But she can be a bit terse at times, as we've regularly
So
heard.
can Chris, to be fair.
Yeah, that is fair, yeah. But there is one person who really wasn't much of a fan of Marina at all, and that person may surprise you. Marina, in case you don't know, in case you're not a Stingray fan, I mean, why are you listening if you're not a Stingray fan? But maybe you don't. Marina was the mysterious and beautiful woman from under the sea who came to Troy Tempest's rescue in the very first episode of Stingray. She subsequently joined the crew of Stingray and took part in many adventures. Obviously, it's not very difficult to get into the World Aquanaut Security Patrol. Just be a random mermaid and you'll let in, no problem.
Well, that's my motto for life, really.
Yeah. And it's worked well for you so far. Anyway,
has.
as Stingray progressed, she seemed to appear less and less. Of course, one famous trait that Marina possessed, besides the ability to breathe underwater with apparent immunity to pressure and temperature, was her inability to speak.
Yes.
Now, it was her muteness that made her the bane of the life of director Alan Patillo. Although Alan thought that the puppet looked fantastic, he found her silence to be a bit of a dramatic hindrance rather than an opportunity to tell stories that highlighted her disability, shall we say. Certainly, the struggle for the APF filmmakers was to tell an exciting story with puppet characters who were very limited in their ability to move and express themselves. So removing the option to have a character speak was one barrier too many for Alan Patillo.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Now, years later, an interview, which you may see in the upcoming network Blu-ray, previously unseen footage, I say, he maintained that the character was, in his words, unsuccessful.
Ouch.
So perhaps this is why Marina became less and less involved in episodes from later on in the production order. Maybe Alan had so much influence that he just said, I'll just get rid of her. But despite this, and despite Alan's protestations, Marina still remains a very popular character.
Yeah.
According to some scripts in the Anderson Entertainment Stingray adaptations, she has recently been played by Raquel Welch, would you believe?
Say what?
No, that's Nick Briggs's little gag. He puts guest
Very
stars
good.
playing Marina in the audio scripts because obviously
Excellent.
they're not really there. No, I mean, of course they're there playing her silently. But
they are.
Podstrons, what do you think about Marina's silence? Was it a successful part of the Stingray formula, or did it slow down the drama? We'd love to know your thoughts. Email us podcast@gerryanderson.com, or if you're watching the video on YouTube, comment below this very video with your thoughts.
That is interesting.
And as I've said, that information and more are available in the fantastic Stingray documentary on the upcoming network Blu-ray, which is called "We're About to Launch Stingray." Obviously,
Of course it
because
is.
it's about the genesis of Stingray. It's a fantastic doc, may I add. Chris has done amazing work on that, and so much new, previously unseen archive material with people who are no longer with us. So, yeah.
Great.
Worth the price of the disc alone for that.
Yeah, I should imagine so. Yes.
But what do you think about mute characters, Richard James?
Well, now, was a reason ever given for her not being able to speak?
Yes, she'd had her ability to speak taken away, I believe, possibly by Titan or some other undersea
Right.
fiend. Is it
Yeah.
an entire race, possibly, that had it taken away?
Right.
I can't remember where it was explained. Again, I'm showing myself up to be
Yeah, now,
Anderson
but-
Ignoramus once again.
If we're and Andoramus. And did we ever meet? Did we ever meet others of her race? at
But her
all?
father, yes.
Right, okay, right.
And,
but
and
he was
of
able to
course,
speak.
Well, there was the audio version, the audio story, the mini album, Marina Speaks,
Yeah.
where she spoke.
Right. Right. Yeah, I mean, it's not a great way, is it, to forward the narrative, having a character that can't speak. I can imagine that you might start off that way, but how interesting and exciting an episode would it be when she regained the power to speak?
Absolutely. Or if it was sort of temporary and fleeting.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be great. Why didn't they do that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I can imagine it wouldn't work really well on audio. Mind you, Chris gets away with it.
He does,
doesn't he?
With all the knocking and squeaking
That's
and
right.
steps.
Yeah, exactly.
To be fair, the audio story that's being put out, the kind of new mini album type story that's again on the network Blu-ray set. We've got Marina in there walking and being reacted to, but it's even more challenging on audio, as you might imagine.
Absolutely right. Yeah, crazy. Yeah.
Anyway, there you go. What do you think? We'd love to know, Podstrons. Email us, podcast@gerryanderson.com, and make sure you go and pre-order your Stingray Blu-ray set, or you can wait until the 14th of April when it'll be available from the Gerry Anderson store. Up to you. Anyway, that feels probably a good time for the end of this one, do you think, Dexter?
Yeah, go on then.
Okay, fine. Well, that brings us to the end of this week's
Silent Fact!
Yeah, see, I actually went silent. I thought you were going to go silent there as well, but you messed it up.
Did.
So.
Oh, curses. That's a good one. Why didn't I think of that?
Never mind. Okay, over to you.
Now, well, we've had a bumper post bag this week, of course, from our lovely Podstrons who've been emailing us at podcast@gerryanderson.com. Now, here's a rather technical one from Ian Plowman. Do you remember, I think last week or the week before, we've been talking about where we could get hold of pictures for our wallpapers and screensavers for our various computers and phones and so on. Well, Ian says, "Hi, Richard and Jamie. In response to your listener Ian Stevens, who asked about Windows wallpaper, you can easily produce these yourself. Just play any video full screen, then press the Windows key plus Shift plus S together when you see the image you want. A small box will appear at the top of the screen. Make sure the Windows snip, third from the left, is selected. The screen will freeze, then press the left mouse anywhere on the screen to save the image. A snip and sketch window will pop up. You can then save the file. All you need to do is to go to Settings, Background, Image Settings, and select your directory you save the file in. If you save a number of images, you can turn Shuffle on for a random image. This will work with Windows 10 and 11. And that's regards from Ian Plowman. I hope that's all clear.
Very clear. Now, are you going to also give us the instructions for Apple Mac users?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's not do that.
There are various ways of doing it. I suppose the problem is, if you're taking a screenshot from a video, very often the definition isn't great, is it? That's the trouble, is what I find.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah. Now, Phil Steer has been in touch. You'll be very pleased.
Phil Steer?
Now, I think Phil Steer's coming to the Stand By for Action concert.
Stand by for Phil Steer then.
Absolutely. He says, "Hello, Podmasters and Podstrons." Here we go. "I'm sure I won't be the first or the last," says Phil, "to respond to the question on the chase regarding the naming of the Tracy brothers."
Oh, no, yes.
No.
I knew when you said this, I thought, that's weird. But I
Right.
Oh, dear.
Are you ready for this? Well, he says, "First off, they were named after 5 of the original 7 Mercury astronauts, which was a single-man capsule, not the later Gemini astronauts, which was a 2-man capsule."
Phil.
He said, although 3 of the 7 did also fly in Gemini missions. The 5 who gave their names to the Tracy brothers are as follows: Malcolm Scott Carpenter from Mercury Atlas 7, Virgil Ivan Gus Grissom, that's from Mercury Redstone 4, Gemini 3, Apollo 1. He was killed, unfortunately, in the launch pad fire. Alan Bartlett Shepard Jr. from Mercury Redstone 3 and Apollo 14. Leroy Gordo Cooper Jr. from Mercury Atlas 9, Gemini 5. And John Herschel Glenn Jr., Mercury Atlas 6, Space Shuttle Discovery. Do you think anyone's still listening? Space Shuttle Discovery. What? Yes. And then he says the 2 who are not immortalised in this way were Walter Marty Schirra, or Skirra Jr., also known as Wally, and Donald Kent, Deke Slayton.
Yeah, I can see that Wally and Donald, was it?
Yeah, that's right.
Wally and Donald Tracy. They somehow don't sound as heroic as the others, do they?
Maybe not. But I have to put my hand up, really. I think I might have slipped up slightly by saying that it was the Gemini astronauts rather than the...
It wasn't the chase, it was you.
No, I think it might have been me. I'll have to listen back and see. Anyway, hi Jamie, Richard and the Randomiser General. Oh, this is from Isle of Wight, Paul Hyde. who says, here, I have an idea for the recording of the live podcast. Instead of getting Richard to sing That Was the News, why don't you get the audience to sing That Was the News, very interesting Gerry Anderson news? I think that will work a treat, and it can then be used on the podcast. P.S. I've enjoyed watching my Space 1999 enhanced Blu-rays. They're brilliant. I think Space 1999 is starting to be my biggest bit of collection, but Thunderbirds is still my biggest one. If I look at it, I don't think I can match this yet. As you say, there's more Gerry Anderson stuff coming all the time. See you in Birmingham. There's another one, says Paul Hyde from the Isle of Wight.
Isle of Wight, Paul Hyde. Now, I absolutely agree that the end of this week's Fab Fact, which, we can maybe give them the line or just call it a Fab Fact. Newsy news. That was news. That was news. I think all of that has to be audience participation. So if you're going to come to our live podcast recording, details on venue and tickets to be announced very shortly, then please practice, follow along each week. Make sure you're getting in good voice for it, because when we hear it, I want it to be, the most incredible choral addition to the Gerry Anderson podcast since it was begun, since the beginning of time.
Imagine! Wow, that's right. It'd be great to have a roving mic, wouldn't it, too, to get some questions from the audience. I think we did that last time.
You're causing technical issues now, but yes, hopefully.
Now, Terry from Hereford has been in touch with another public service message saying a countrywide red alert has been declared in the UK till March the 2nd, so hopefully you and the team are safe and sound. Well, thank you, Terry. Hope you are too. Stephen Carson. Hi, Jamie and Richard. Thought I'd write to say how much I enjoy the podcast, but... Yes,
how big's his butt?
I'd like to highlight a couple of things. Firstly, says Stephen, I spotted that Jack Hedley had died on the 11th of December 2021 and thought as he had appeared in the Space Precinct double episode The Fire Within, I would bring this to your attention, but also ask if Richard has any comments or recollections from working with him. Secondly, in the recent interview with Sam Clemens, Pod 193, he had no recollection of a time when his dad, Brian, had crossed paths with Gerry. Here we go, Jamie. Yeah. I have had a look, and in fact, Brian wrote 4 episodes of The Protectors in Series 1 and 2 in Series 2. Keep up the good work, Stephen Carson from Edinburgh.
Yes, indeed. Now, I should add, just because he wrote on them doesn't necessarily mean that their paths crossed that much at the time.
Sure.
They probably did, to be fair. But it's amazing how things like that can happen, where you can end up working on a show or working on a project and you don't meet half the people. I mean, you have it all the time. I'm sure, don't you? Because you're, appearing in scenes that are different from other actors, and therefore you never meet them, even though you're in the same show.
Well, here's a case in point, Jack Hedley, that Stephen mentioned, who, yes, I knew died in December. I don't think I saw him on set. I'm not sure I had any scenes with him. I can't quite remember. A long time ago now, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Don't really remember talking to him. I know he was there because John Glenn, our director, had worked on many a Bond movie, and I think Jack Hedley was in For Your Eyes Only, I think. But I might be wrong. But he was certainly in a Bond movie. Now, Rodney J. Kelly. I've got an idea for a Thunderbirds rescue scene. Yes, this is from last week. I think we were talking about real life locations for Thunderbird rescues. And he says, the idea comes from the 2004 Indian Ocean earthquake and tsunami. This is how would international rescue deal with a disaster with thousands of casualties. The climactic scene is thousands of victims are loaded onto Thunderbird 2. The situation is deteriorating, and Scott starts screaming for Virgil to take off. Virgil refuses to, but he was not done loading. Jeff interrupts Scott, saying, Virgil knows what he's doing. Thunderbird 2 finally finishes loading and starts thundering down the makeshift runway as structures collapse around it. Before Virgil can get into the air, everything falls on top of the Thunderbird. Just as the dust begins to settle, the mighty transport erupts for the devastation. Virgil keys his mic and declares, we leave no one behind. We are international rescue.
Ooh,
just an idea. And that's Rodney J. Kelly.
I need to lie down after that.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Virgil probably does too.
Absolutely. We were talking about real-life locations for rescues. I think there's a few more coming up a little later on, because that was the subject of quite a good conversation over on our Facebook group. So we'll dip into that a little later.
Very good, very good. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your messages, Podstrons. We really do appreciate hearing them. Make sure you tweet or email us or do all the things that Richard will say more about later on.
Yeah, we'll get there. Yeah.
Oh, dear. Now, this is the ideal time for you to start practicing getting into good voice for the live podcast as we go into this week's Gerry Anderson News. Right, Richard, just before you do it, let's just... Do you want to just run a very short little vocal warm-up? Is it a me, or a...
Okay, everybody, that's right, yes. Just slide up and down your range with like this. Very good. And just loosen everything out. That's it. Give yourself a shake.
Yeah.
And ready after me. News.
Oh,
Very good.
I just missed the start of it, but I think the Podstrons are pretty well there. So, yes, that'll be the intro to the section for the live podcast. But now this is the Gerry Anderson news, and so let's begin with the concert. Stand by for action. Gerry Anderson in concert. You may have seen some rather interesting footage, or maybe not interesting to you, from a visit I made to Birmingham a couple of weeks ago, focusing heavily on the sound. And John Blundell's involvement in the shows because of the Birmingham connection there with John and Jean Taylor, the old Taylor and Hollick studios. I went there and I went to the concert hall, and it was just a lovely day, a lovely few hours spent with some models and puppets up there. John Coleshaw is hosting. It's going to be amazing. The last few VIP tickets are available. It really is the last few. I think it was 3 or 4 at the last time I had a look. So if you do want to come along to that meet and greet where you will get a copy of the programme, which otherwise you'll have to buy if you want a copy when you come to the concert, you'll get a limited edition print, one of 2 randomly assigned, which will never be created again. Nice. And you get a little meet and greet and a little kind of mingle and soiree. I know. Well, don't laugh. You're coming to it. You're one of the people there with John Coleshaw, Richard Harvey, Crispin Morrell, Nick Briggs, Wayne Forrester, Richard James, Chris Dale, me. Sorry about that. Lee Sullivan, and then maybe some others too. And you'll get to mingle with us for sort of half an hour, 45 minutes, have a chat, get some pictures, talk about the concert, talk about anything you want to talk about. So, there were only 100 tickets available, and I think it's down to the last 3. So join 97 other Ander fans and come and meet us and have a nice time before the concert.
What am I going to wear for that?
Well, hopefully more than your officer or in underpants. Would that be okay?
All right then.
Okay, fine. Well, now we're talking about the 16th of April, which is the concert day.
Yes.
I should say that is the day we're going to do the live podcast, obviously, which will be around 2 o'clock, all being well. Final details and tickets to be announced. There will also be, I believe, another very special screening on the afternoon of the 16th. More to be discussed there. Now, of course, the night before, on the 15th of April, we've got the Q&A hosted by John Coleshaw and the screening of Gerry Anderson and Life Uncharted at the Electric in Birmingham. At the time we're recording, there are 2 seats left there.
What?
It's pretty much sold out.
Wow.
We will have a way for you to win 2 tickets if you've missed out.
Okay, good.
Details on that very, very soon. So, goodness me, that is going to be a great, fun, busy weekend.
Isn't it?
Yes. If you're looking to attend the preview screening, the world premiere of Gerry Anderson and Life Uncharted at the BFI, then mark your calendars now. Tickets go on sale on the BFI website from 11:30 a.m. this week, this Thursday, the 3rd of March.
Right.
We anticipate they'll probably sell out pretty quickly, so make sure you're stood by and ready to grab tickets. It's quite a decent capacity screen, though, NFT one at the BFI, so you should be in with a good chance. And also we will have some opportunities for you to win tickets as well later on.
Lovely.
And this is all around Gerry Anderson Day and stuff, so it's very exciting. I'm really pleased it's all coming together.
Yeah.
If you're more minded on merch, then we've got a brand new t-shirt range featuring various logos from Thunderbirds and Space 1999 and UFO, all the iconic emblems, the International Rescue symbol and the Moonbase Alpha logo and the Shadow logo on a range of tees which are out today. A reminder to Terrorhawks fans and those who just like to scare people around them that the full head Zelda mask is shipping. I've got mine right behind me. It's brilliant. Yeah. And one of my favourite things to do right now is go onto Zoom meetings with the camera off and then turn the camera on once I've got my Zelda mask on and terrify everyone I'm talking to.
Great.
Very professional, as you can imagine. We've also got a brand new range of badges on the way, courtesy of designer Marcus Stamps, Thunderbirds 1 to 4. Oh, I know, woe is me, say Thunderbird 5 fans. I know. No Thunderbird 5 variant currently, but there may be. But you see, it's interesting for Thunderbirds. There's always this kind of clamour of, oh, poor old Thunderbird 5, always forgotten. But the stuff with Thunderbird 5 on just doesn't seem to sell as well. It's really peculiar. So, we just can't make the Thunderbird 5 stuff if it then just sort of sits in the warehouse and doesn't go anywhere, which is really sad because I love Thunderbird 5. Anyway, if you're desperate for a Thunderbird 5 badge to go onto this set, then let us know. It'll be out later this week. For audio, to round off this week's news, Big Finish have been busily putting out Anderson stuff. Space 1999 Earthbound is out now. The further adventures of the crew of Moonbase Alpha. And you're really starting to see the different dynamics that Big Finish have set up between the characters. Perhaps some characters staying longer than you might expect, others leaving sooner than you might expect. Perhaps. Okay. I don't know. Yeah. Only way to find out is to get the download or the CD version from bigfinish.com, or the CD version will be available from the Gerry Anderson store very, very soon, probably later this week or early next week. And Big Finish have released the digital version of Monster from the Deep. That's the latest Stingray outing. The CD and hardback book will follow very, very soon from the Gerry Anderson store. But if you can't wait, or if you're more of a digital person, then go to bigfinish.com and you can get your latest helping of a Stingray adventure.
Wow. Take a breather.
Yeah, knackered now. I think that's it. There's probably some more stuff, but I think that's quite enough for this week. So that is the end. Are you ready? For this week's, stand by, Gerry Anderson News.
That was the news. Very tiring news.
Now I wonder how many Podstrons sang very tiring news, or they just went with that was the news.
There might be one or two. You never know.
Let us know.
A lot of averages. Yeah, exactly. Now, you are listening, of course, to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Please do, what's the word I'm looking for? Subscribe to us, or whichever platform you're listening to us on. Yeah, leave us a nice rating or a review to let us know how we're doing. And why not copy the link to all your socials so your friends get to listen too. Now, over on our Facebook group, that's facebook.com/groups/Podsterons.
Well remembered.
People have been discussing all manner of things. Steve Beresford says, for example, watching Dear John on Forces TV, and this reference pops up. Because he's a goody-goody teacher, this guy's squeaky clean. He makes Joe 90 look sleazy. Nice. Tom Riley asked this question. Who out of the Anderverse would you have narrate your life? I'm going to say Wayne Forrester, as his narrations of the books is superb. Tom Hodden says, well, John Coleshaw. His readings for the BBC Doctor Who range are excellent, not just for the voices he gives characters. His narration is nuanced and always pitch perfect, with a favourite uncle twinkle in his eye. Yes, Ian Stevens says, Brian Blessed for me. Paul G says he'd like his life to be narrated by the Hood. His eyes could light up at the disastrous bits of my life. Now, we were talking about potentially real-life locations for Thunderbird rescues. Robert Monk suggests the Dartford Tunnel of the QE2 bridge. Bridge closed and collapses in high winds, blocking cars and people in the tunnels. Earl Black suggests a rescue from Eastbourne, where no one escapes from. Andre says disaster in the Channel Tunnel seems an obvious one to me. Maybe Thunderbird 4 guides the specially waterproofed mole down to the seabed in the middle of the channel and it starts drilling from there. Simon Allen says, how about rescuing a charity fundraiser from a bath of baked beans?
Oh, not that again.
What could he mean? Alex Patrick says, having heard this week's fab fact, I think having a rescue take place at a real-life landmark is the only way you could justify making a live-action Thunderbirds film. It's quite interesting, isn't it?
It is.
Fair enough. I also asked, what themes are people looking forward to most to hearing at the Standby for Action in Birmingham on April the 16th? And Gary says, if I had been going, I would love to have heard the stirring Thunderbirds march, and also from Barry Gray themes and music from Space 1999 and UFO, and a theme by Crispin Merrill, a favourite Space Precinct maybe. Next time for me. To all who are going, though, have a fab evening's entertainment. Willow says, I'm going. I'm looking forward to Fireball and Thunderbirds. Joe Harwood says, I can hardly wait for Space 1999 to be blasted out. Andrew Hyde says, March of the Oysters would be epic to hear live, as would the Terrorhawks theme, given the orchestral treatment. Also something from Thunderbirds and Fireball would be nice too. Steve says, controversial, but maybe Space Precinct, as I've never heard it live before. Oh, and Marina sings Secret Service Unwinnie's style.
Brilliant. That'll definitely happen.
Yeah, Paul Hyder from China says, I'm stoked to hear Candy and Andy's theme. Well, we might.
It would sort of be a Twisted Jaws type theme, I suggest, if that was right, Candy and Andy. It's not happening.
No. Oh, fair enough. You heard it here first. And finally, while we're on the subject of music, Jamie.
Yes, sir?
And it's about that time of the podcast where I present you with Tom Hodden's Quickfire 5.
Oh, is it? Oh, look, I've just got to go and attend to something very important elsewhere.
It's time for this week's musical round of Quickfire 5.
Okay.
Right, number one, are you ready for these? Take a choice between Space 1999, Operatic Orchestra, or Wah Wah Guitar.
Orchestra.
Oh, Thunderbirds. This episode, Fire Flash music or the Thunderbirds March?
Oh, the march. Come on,
Got
man.
to be. Stingray, Anything Can Happen or Aquamarina?
Anything can happen.
Oh, okay. Funkiest
crooning
theme
here.
tune, UFO or Terrorhawks?
Oh, what?
Come on, it's
Funkiest?
easy. Yeah.
Funkiest?
Yeah,
well, that's
it's gotta be.
UFO. It's got the
Of course
funk,
it is.
but Terrorhawks is cool.
Right, now for an obscure one for your final question, Jamie. A choice between The Shadows or Jeff Love and his orchestra.
What? Well, if you were going to say, is it Jeff Wayne from ELO? I would have gone for that. But
well, now you're mixing up your Jeffs.
I know. I was hoping for a different Jeff.
Well, that's Jeff Lynne from ELO.
Jeff
Wayne
Lynne.
wrote War of the Worlds. Yes.
Now I am really mixing things up. So I would have gone for Jeff Lynne, but Jeff Wayne is out the picture.
Yes. So it's Jeff Love or The Shadows.
The Shadows.
It's got to be. Here we are. That's this week's Quick 5
Oh,
from
dear.
Tom Hodden. Thanks once again, Tom.
Thanks,
again,
Tom.
you could all, look at all Tom's books. He's got various books for sale on Amazon. Just type in T.E. Hodden into Google, and I'm sure you'll see them there.
Yes, but not all of his books are around.
As bad as his.
Yes, yeah, exactly. His Quick Fire Fives.
Yeah. Oh, dear. Great. So a little later on, we'll be heading on over to Twitter and YouTube to see what people have been saying there. Some of it's quite polite.
If polite is the best we can get, then we're not doing that well. Okay.
Well, all right.
Well, I look forward to those polite things later on. Shall we turn over to Sam Clemens? I feel like we should.
I think
really.
we should, yes.
Yeah, okay, fine. Well, Sam Clemens, as you all know, son of the legendary Brian Clemens, Mr. Avengers, and many other things, and also Mr. 4 episodes of Protectors. I'm sure
That's right.
there was a real feather in his cap. Not. Anyway, Sam is an actor and director and writer in his own right, and also a lovely human being and director of our audio stories, including Monster from the Deep and Operation Icecap, the 2 Stingray stories, and Peril in Peru and Terror from the Stars, our 2 Thunderbirds stories, and some other stuff that's coming up. He's been a very busy boy, and yet he's still found time to talk to me and listen to all my nonsense. So in return, I listen to his smart stuff. So here's part 2 of Sam Clemens and his smart stuff. If you were watching that 90s stuff, I'm just interested from your perspective how Thunderbirds sits in or sat in at the time with He-Man and Thundercats and whatever else you were watching. You know, was there any sense? I suppose you were already being exposed to things which at that point were 30 years old because of your dad's work. But did you have any perception of this being somehow other in time?
No, I think, do you know what? Probably not until getting close to being a teenager, I should think. I would have probably, I think the thing is, what I did notice, and I think it is something that we associate, maybe our generation and maybe the later generation not as much, but because they're shot on film gives a sense of grandeur and also age in a way. That now, you know, everything's shot, not everything, but most things are shot digitally, so it's a different look. But for us, everything that had some quality. All I'm going to say is quality was definitely film. Yeah. Like when you had the terrible shows, and, you know, Dad had quite a few where you had like the exterior 16mm, interior some video. Disgusting. I mean, but like a very, you know, I understand the budgetary constraints of that.
Course.
You could feel that it just felt cheaper. But and so when I would watch Thunderbirds at that point, I always associated it with something that was grand and big and sort of like, you know, almost like an American movie. You know, it didn't feel like you know, a cheap piece of entertainment. It felt really like this is awesome, and this is, you know, the scope is huge, and like just the iconography of all the characters and you know the costumes and Tracy Island, and just, you know, there was so much that, you know, I think whether you know it or not, I think most people know Thunderbirds. If I say Thunderbirds to anyone, I've never met anyone that has no perception of what Thunderbirds is, and I think that tells you pretty much everything you need to know about the series. Is that just how wide a scope it has? and a little, not so much with the Avengers, but sometimes with that as well. Like people, they understand the woman in the cat suit or the bowler hat and the umbrella. That may be about as far as it goes with the Avengers. But I think, Thunderbirds is got way more longevity in a way because it's its own world and it can continue, because of the technology. I think
there's a natural timelessness that's derived from supermarionation, I guess, and the fact that it is this completely different self-contained universe. But yeah, it just sort of sits oddly in time. And that's weird because it meant that, I guess, in the 90s and even 2000s that it could be re-shown as if it was a new current thing and picked up new audiences, including you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I used to, watch lots of old MGM movies and things, and that Technicolor era, and CinemaScope and all that sort of period of filmmaking. And I felt, I don't know why, but the Thunderbirds sort of slotted in because it was just felt so. I think that's it. Is it felt so cinematic? It didn't feel like a TV show. It felt like an hour-long movie.
Yeah.
And that's why I think they're so engaging, is that there wasn't much television. And I think that's probably why the Avengers sold to the States, is because it was shot on film and they were like mini films. And now, obviously, that's what is, the industry is sort of, 10-hour films or 12-hour films, basically. Yeah. But that really wasn't the case back then. It was much more serial, whereas this was like, little movies. And they were so... And they also had a beginning, middle, and an end. And you didn't need to have watched every episode before to enjoy it. And I think that may be of the period of writing as well, of doing that to keep engaging the audience. But I think there is something in that you can work, the story continues all the way through, but you can pick up any episode and not feel like, it's an elitist piece in the sense that I have to have had to watch it from the first episode.
It's more welcoming, isn't it, in a strange way?
Yeah, because I feel like people with Marvel. I mean, I love the Marvel movies, and I'm a big fan. But if you don't see something, do you feel you're missing out, like something or a storyline that's happening there? And then do people go, I can't be bothered? I think it can alienate people as well. I think some of these things. Yeah,
there's a bit of a kind of diminishing returns in audience things, isn't there? Because if you haven't seen one, then do you see the next one? No, I haven't seen that. And then you kind of get down to something like, I guess, Loki, where there are so many references to everything that's come before, and think, I feel like I'm not getting this. So whereas you're right, you can just, as a kid, sit down in front of one episode of Thunderbirds, you understand the setup, they save the world, they all tell a bad joke and laugh at the end, and that's it, done.
It's great. Totally in the best way. It does what it says on the tin, and it does it really well.
Absolutely.
That's what I think is what your dad did so well, was understanding the audience and understanding what was wanted and what was needed and what was popular. And I think that's why there's so many different series that he created. UFO for recently is just that going back to that, like. And watching that now as an adult is a completely different experience. And I remember sort of catching, I'm sure, an episode or so when I was younger, and just seeing it and it being so like it sounds weird, but the adult version of Thunderbirds, in a way, sort of like the educated version. They
all shared the DNA of secret organization, a paternal figure under pressure. They're all there, the fantastic machines, the heroes doing the right thing, all that sort of stuff. It's pretty consistent.
It's stock characters, characters that work, and that's why we love them. It's because we recognise them, and I always think it's interesting that maybe now not so much, but I always think that kids' experience into film or into this world is usually Disney. Yeah, it's usually some form of whether it's the Lion King, which sort of Hamlet, isn't it? But they're sort of similar archetypes and story types that we've got used to. But we start with those ones, and they just get more complex. And as we get older, and we want more complex versions of the same story, really. Yeah. But concepts never stop being popular or working, I would say.
Which is the perfect time to what you've been doing recently, I reckon. So you have been in sole charge, direction-wise, of our recent foray into full cast audiobooks for Thunderbirds and Stingray. How has that been for you, Sam?
Well, I mean, I think Super Audio Nation is right. When you came up with that, I was like, oh my, why did we not think of that earlier? That is incredible. Well, firstly, I mean, I know it's a huge privilege to be asked to do it, and I feel really, really humble. I really mean it to be asked to do it.
Bless you.
And huge hats off to you, and thank you to you, sir, for allowing me to do it. Because it's enabled me to sort of, in my spare time, go and watch Thunderbirds. And,
it's a great excuse.
No, darling, no, this is work. I'm watching this. We will be watching 3 episodes of this right now. So from that perspective, it's been a delight, and it does remind me bizarrely of my dad in that period. Yeah. It's sort of, so again, sure. it's got a nostalgic feel to the period, and people that have gone that are no longer with us, that were friends of our family as well.
Yeah.
I don't know why it does, but it just does. It's a huge nostalgia trip for me. And so when doing it, I just wanted to be, and I think we also discussed it, being as authentic as possible to the original iteration of Thunderbirds, which that was a lot of fun to do, because it's the, I suppose it's, when we discuss with the actors, is vocally, for example, making sure the American was pronounced, even if it was slightly wrong by today's standards, it's correct by the 60s version.
Yeah.
And that, and being on top of that was so much fun. Because you really felt we're creating something back in a time capsule. We're doing it's almost like doing a historical piece.
It is, yes, period puppet drama on audio.
Yeah, it really is, and the level of performance that you can get away with, because when I watch them, all the vocal work in it is quite extraordinary, and it really, because the puppets, not that they don't have as much expression, but because there is a lack of it, the voice has to do most of the storytelling. So that lends itself perfectly to the audio drama, I think. You just, and when you cast someone, like John Coleshaw, the captain in person, and it's so interesting working with him. And I was just saying earlier to Jamie before we jumped on this that it was the first time I got to meet him recently. We did a Thunderbirds in the studio, and I got to meet him and Genevieve, who I've directed a variety of times now, all on Clean Feed. I've never met them in the flesh, and it was just so nice. But talking to him particularly was interesting, because obviously he's famous for being an impersonator. That you get to take an impersonation, but you not doing it for just comedic value anymore.
No,
we're now doing it as a character. You're able to make it your own and be as authentic to your childhood dreams of wanting to be Parker or Jeff Casey, and just living that. And when he does the Brigadier for a Big Finish as well.
Oh, I know. I love John's Brigadier. I've done a couple with him, and it's just you get the same feeling, right? Well, I get the same feeling with his Jeff, and with Genevieve's Lady Penelope, and with Justin Scott. I mean, all of them. There's like a warm, nostalgic kind of buzz you get when you hear them, especially some moments, some little notes, some little ways of saying phrases or ending sentences, which obviously you're bringing out them. So hats off to you for that, which just make you go, oh, that's Thunderbirds, that's Jeff, that's whoever. So it's quite the skill to bring that together between you and the cast.
I mean, the thing is, I think that what's lovely is that everyone involved is a huge fan. And I have to say, I couldn't do this without Andrew Clemens. I mean,
AC is brilliant.
I mean, we call him the Thunder expert. And, whenever, and I obviously give him full rein to jump in at any moment if there is something that isn't, specific, because he really does know.
Oh, yeah.
You'll probably know the nuts and bolts that are made, to put them together. And that's really helpful though, because I approach each one of them. It's a bit like, I feel like this a little bit with Doctor Who, but I had a lot more exposure, I think, to Thunderbirds and Stingray than I did, let's say, Doctor Who, because Doctor Who, I was in that era where it was the wilderness years.
Yes.
So Sylvester McCoy had just finished, and I probably was at the age where I would have got into it, and then it was off TV. So I didn't have a Doctor in essence, like lots of generations would. And how I approach Doctor Who when I'm directing is I just look at the story to begin with and try and, the story is king and everything else is secondary to that. We've got to make sure that the story is clear and fun. And it's the same with this, is I always look at what is the story, what are we telling and what do we want? And Andrew can always jump in if there is something that we are maybe missing as specific that we need it, which is honestly, I can't. And Ben Page as well. They're just remarkable assets to doing these recordings. But I think the one thing about working with the actors is that I try and direct the way that I would like to work I like to work as an actor, which is having the freedom to fail and not feel like an idiot.
Yes,
I work with so many people and so many directors that make you feel stupid or make you feel tense about trying something, or then being reprimanded if it's not good, or and so you go more into your shell, and you might not get something as fun or extraordinary, and sometimes it goes too far, but you can always bring it back.
Yes.
You can always bring it back. So, and what's lovely about working with everyone and Thunderbirds is that, and Stingray as well, is that they do have free reign to sort of try things. And I always say, if you want another take, or you feel like you want to try something, just let's do it. We're here. We're not going to be here again, so let's just do it and let's see if it works. And if it works, then it's great. And so many of those bits of nuances is I think really down to them. But the only thing I can say is I'm hoping I've made the space safe enough for them to feel that they can try something and be as wild and wacky or as restrained as they want to be in a certain moment.
Yeah, well, very much in the vein of International Rescue. This sort of very collaborative effort to for the best outcome, and I think you can really hear it. Now, I've got a feeling that I know the answer, but who amongst the cast, particularly of Thunderbirds, let's start with Thunderbirds, is the most wacky, gives the most strange suggestions, and has perhaps surprised you the most with their bonkersness?
Oh gosh!
I mean, this is an accolade. I'm not asking you to throw anyone under the bus.
I mean, I think, I suppose the wackiest is probably Wayne.
I knew it would be Forrester.
Wayne does little adverts, like little commercial bits. In the middle. Like, get your free action comb now. And he'll do this in the middle. And I'm like, we should just take those as a complete little bit because they're so funny. He's so witty. And it feels like, so directing Wayne and Mark Silk,
yes,
who, Troy Tempest, they are like sometimes directing actual cartoons.
Yes.
and like you're like, is Wayne here now, or is it phones, or who is it? What's going on, or is it brains? And that's sort of that's quite infectious with everyone.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of banter in character as well that obviously
I'm sure
it doesn't make the cut.
No, quite right too.
Genevieve is hilarious, and like I think her portrayal of Lady Penelope is just spot on, and she really brilliant. Works so hard at it. She really wants it to be perfect, and she spends a lot of time doing it, and she comes incredibly prepared.
Yes.
And Justin. It's just a revelation that he can just do all these characters, and he has to keep jumping back and forth. And
yes,
I think the one actually it's interesting. The one that you would think might be easiest is, I think the hardest is John.
Yeah,
getting John. I'm sure he would agree. Is getting the tone of that is difficult, because sometimes you go, oh, now you're sounding a bit more like Scott. So you just got to, but you can't go too far, otherwise it becomes total caricature. So it's just bringing it back and forth. But very rarely do I have to say anything to him with the hood or with Kira,
Justin's the hood is I love it because it could be lifted in time from the series. I mean, again, it's not to to try to sort of, perfect impersonation as the pinnacle, because it's not about that really. It's about the sort of sense of character and the, bits of intonation and warmth and concern and the intensity of someone like Scott, which I think Justin does so beautifully. But that Hood for me is one of my favorites. But they did such a great job. Just touching on Stingray then as well. Does it feel kind of very similar in style and grouping? I mean, you've got a different cast. Wayne carrying across, obviously.
Wayne is the constant, isn't he? From
yes,
both. And I'd say the one thing I'd say before I just jump into that is that what is nice is that when we started, I think we really, really wanted to be as, we were sort of not tiptoeing, but we were being very careful,
gentle, right?
As authentic as we can. But now we've done a few. I feel that those actors have now taken those characters as their own, because I think they've been given permission to do that within the parameters of what they've created, and they're making them their own, which I think is a lovely thing. And like, for example, having Anna as Tintin, she is doing a slightly different version of it, which I think is great, and that gives it a sort of fresh, modern quality to it, which is different about it, and that's a good reason to listen to it. But with Stingray, it does. I mean, they're two very different recording days. They feel quite different.
Yes,
but
I
they
can
feel
imagine.
very much in the same world. It's just and again, with Stingray, I've not met anyone, yet. It's all been down the line. So it's sort of like a cacophony of voices over clean feed and. Trying to wrangle the cartoon characters into some form of let's do the scene.
Yes,
I could easily just listen to them all day. I mean, obviously Mark Silk being the voice of Johnny Bravo and Shaggy and Scooby Doo is just and when he throws some of those in occasionally, you can't help it. The child in you is unlocked even further. But I think the thing is that the cast that you've assembled are so good, and there's very little that I need to do is just let them loose a little bit, and then rein them back in. But I think they're so well cast. I mean, Jules DeYoung has got she's perfect as Atlanta.
She's done an amazing job there. Well, you've done an amazing job with her, but there's just again those little kind of lilts at the end of sentences when she's being a bit sarky or joking or whatever. I just love it.
And I tell you, it's been lovely though, because when I started directing, I hadn't ever got round to directing Nick, and I was like, God, it's weird, because he's the boss of Big Finish, and I've worked with him the other way where he's directed me many a time. So.
Don't mess it up, Sam.
Yeah. I was like, feel the pressure. And then I've directed him quite a few times now in Callan, when he was in Callan, and so and various Dalek stories that we've done.
Yep.
And Cybermen, and so I sort of felt when I came to Stingray, that was good, because it put me in a good place because this is this is quite a different foray for him, I should think, tonally as well as an actor. But again, his Commander Shaw is just brilliant. It's just, it's really fun.
Yeah.
It's the right, quality. He's got the right weight to play it. And it's so, I don't mean that like physically. I mean like,
well, I do.
Hi, Nick. I didn't say you're fat.
I did. I love Nick's Titan, but I mean they are all great. And Wayne's X20.
Oh, he's actually great. So on it. Yeah,
because he did a Peter Lorre type character, a little robot that we cast for the Quantum Possibility Engine. It was a Doctor Who Sylvester story where he was just doing this ridiculous over the top Peter Lorre robot. So I knew instantly that is like, okay, you are X20.
Yeah. He's so good at that. I mean, so many outtakes of that. But and Nick's Titan is. I was saying to Nick today that because we're looking at the new release, and Nick is, he's like 3 or 4 characters of this one. He's the bad guy as well. He's the other bad guy, and it's just he has scenes with himself, and he really does. And I think that's a testament to Nick as well as a performer. Whenever I'm talking to actors that are playing 2 characters, I'm like, imagine you're in a scene with yourself. and you have to sound completely different.
Yeah,
that's the key. Is you've got to get it sounds like two different people, and he really does. And it's just it's fantastic. So he's and it was so much fun to work with him. Again, we've had to do. I think this was the last one we had to do him in isolation. So it was just him on his own with me. All these characters, which
amazing,
was cool. And they slotted really nicely. So.
Yeah, no, it's amazing how it all comes together. We should also just give a quick tip of the hat to Toby doing the sound design, Benji and Joe Kramer's music, which sounds so Barry Gray-esque and beautiful across the two series. I mean, everyone's doing a magic job.
I mean, like obviously Toby, I've known as an engineer more than a sound designer.
Yes.
And I know he does a variety of things because obviously we go to Moat Studios, and then when COVID hit, he's been doing more sound design. And when he said, I found out he was going to do this, I was really excited to sort of work with him because I've not seen him for ages, obviously, or spoken to him. And that first FX edit that I got through of the first Thunderbirds, Terror from the Stars, it just blew my mind. I was like, this is like the detail and this. What's interesting is you always know where you are. In lots of these audio adaptations, like when there's action, I think sometimes you can get lost as to where. We know what's happening because we've got the script in front of us. But if you take the script away and just go, does that make sense to someone just on the audio alone? And it really does with Toby's work, and it's just remarkable. And then obviously when the fact you've got Joe Kramer to do it, it's just Hollywood composer Joe Kramer. I mean,
yes, I know. It's very cool.
It's super cool, and it feels like he has just written. He just transported himself back to that period and just nicked some stuff from Barry Gray and just went, right, I'm just
borrowed Sam, let's say.
But it just sounded totally authentic. It's so good. It brings it. Those elements are so intrinsic to making the whole thing work. I mean, particularly because there's so much sound design along with Wayne's narration. I mean, enormous amounts. So it really, so it's a huge job for Toby and Benji. I mean, I adore Benji, and working with him is always hilarious and a delight. And again, he's an aficionado in so many different areas as well. And I think again, he's younger than me, and I find that absolutely amazing. Really, that there's I don't know why we think that, but there's younger people that are really interested in series that our dads created and other create other series from the 60s and earlier and the 70s and really appreciating it and preferring it to lots of modern television, which is sort of quite extraordinary, really. And I'm sure all of the creators who are no longer with us would be incredibly humbled that there are people out there that are flying the flag very high still for those series and those creators.
Absolutely. I love that sentiment. Sam, if someone is listening to this right now and they haven't tried the audios yet, and maybe they're sitting on the fence about giving them a go, what would you say to convince them to give it a try? How will they feel when they step into this new audio world of Thunderbirds? Because I think there's a bit of reluctance because the visuals were so strong. It's all about the visuals. I love the look of the craft. I love the explosions. I love the design. And this is only in my ears. So how is it going to make them feel?
There was a friend of mine listened to it, who's a huge Thunderbirds fan, like huge, has all the books from the 60s, watched all the shows.
Yeah.
And he said, I felt like I was that child again listening to it. He goes, it is so authentically correct and so immersive. And I felt like a little boy again.
Nice. Okay.
And I suppose that was the greatest review that I've seen for it or heard for it, because that's what we were aiming for, is that someone that was a huge fan, that they didn't feel that we were misrepresenting the series or not doing it justice. But I think that it really does, but it really does more than anything that I've been involved with. You feel like this was made back in the 60s and
yes,
but with all this incredible design. And also, if you're missing the visuals, if you know all the sound effects, which you will, and the thing you won't realize that you know them that well because you watch so many of them. But it's like, anything that's popular, like, I'm picking the lightsaber, but everyone knows the lightsaber sound. But the moment you hear, you know where you are, and that excitement is built with you. I think sound is a sensory device that brings you right back to periods like smell and sound. You hear a
100%.
song and you go, oh my God, I'm 15 and I'm at that concert, or whatever.
Yes.
The sound of Thunderbird 2 or of the launching in, or Tracy Island, there's so many different pieces of sound design in this that you could mention that are quite iconic. But I think the moment you hear one of them, you will go, right, I'm back in. And I think that's the reason to, if you're on the fence, at least give it a go. I mean,
get off the fence.
Get off the fence. It's Thunderbird 2 or what?
It's like an audio time travel device.
It is. Absolutely.
But the audio that also generates, but it does, it generates those images. I could just hear the sort of vertical landing rockets of Thunderbird 2 firing. And it's just such it's such an identifiable sound that I can't imagine the sound without imagining the visuals that go along. And I think that's the key and the beauty of what audio can do for you. Sam, you've been brilliant to chat to, and you're doing an amazing job on the audio. So please continue doing it. There's lots more to do, and things that we can't yet talk about, which have already been recorded and are going to be recorded soon. So stand by for more action, I guess. If people want to find you online, Sam, where can they do so? Not in a stalkery way.
Not in a stalkery way. Well, I suppose on Instagram it's Sam JT Clemens. And on Twitter, it's at Josh Twain, which my middle name is Joshua Twain.
Brilliant.
So related to Mark Twain, apparently. And who knew that would be cool when Google came along and then your name is completely swamped by Mark Twain. My website is samclemens.co.uk, and my film company is taketheshotfilms.com, which we're developing lots of my dad's material through. You can actually see a trailer that we shot for, which we're using at the moment to get Dad's play Strictly Murder off the ground into a feature film. It's called On the
Amazing.
Edge. But you can see that on our YouTube channel on Take the Shot Films. And you can see me. We're doing. There's a short that we did recently called "A Bad Day to Propose," which was part of the Straight 8 Film Festival, where you have and we won that festival. But we have a different cut of the movie because we shot it on 16mm as well as 8mm, and we're releasing that on Valentine's Day. And we're using virtual production, all the screen technology that they use in The Mandalorian.
Oh, awesome!
So there will be a premiere date of that on the 14th of February.
Okay, brilliant. Well, in that case, we'll have to make sure we get this out as soon as possible.
Or listen to it, watch it retrospectively.
That's brilliant, Sam. Thank you. So Postrons, go there, go and watch the trailer at the very least, and follow Sam online, not in a stalky way, and tell him what you think of the Thunderbirds and Stingray audios.
Yes, please. Sure. I love getting and Genevieve and John always retweet everything about it, so it's great.
Yeah,
might get a comment from them.
Fantastic. All right, Sam. Sam, thanks for your time. Brilliant chatting to you, and hopefully I'll see you in the flesh soon. Because
are you doing
it's only been virtual
concert thing?
Yes.
So that's in Birmingham, is that right?
Birmingham Symphony Hall, 16th of April, and obviously I hope you'll join us as our guest.
I'd love to. Yeah.
And by the time this comes out, John will have been announced as the host. So
amazing.
So we'll get John doing live with an orchestra, the orchestral stabs, and John's doing his Jeff doing 5, 4. Oh, it's going to be amazing.
Genevieve going to do it as well, because she was mentioning maybe doing something as well.
So Genevieve's doing a play, so she can't do it.
No.
However, she is appearing, by pre-record. So brilliant stuff from Sam. Yes, I told you it was smart stuff.
You did, yes.
So if you want to go to Sam's official website, go to taketheshotfilms.com, or you can follow him on Twitter at Josh Twain. Now, he mentioned on there something which was released a few weeks ago for Valentine's Day, which is his fantastic little short, which was shot all through virtual production. It's amazingly done, really beautiful stuff.
Right.
But you can go and find that at taketheshotfilms.com. I think it's called A Bad Day to Propose.
Nice.
Very worth a watch there. Really lovely stuff, and making use of old technology and new in perfect combination. So
great.
Thank you, Sam.
Very good.
That's the end of that one. What have you got
All right.
for me, since I've given you that lovely interview with Sam Clemens?
Well, I thought I would head on over to Twitter very quickly because someone else has taken me to task about the old Mercury-Gemini debacle. Lost in Transition says, Geek, is that spelled A-R-R-G-H-H?
Yeah, you pronounced that correctly.
He says, geek mode kicked in when Richard mentioned the question on the chase. The Thunderbird boys were not, capital letters, named after Gemini astronauts, but after Project Mercury, capital letters, astronauts. And yes, the other two were Wally Shearer and Deke Slayton. Also, Jamie was totally correct in saying that Ed White was a Gemini astronaut. He was, in fact, the first American spacewalker. I was driving when I heard this. I was gripping my steering wheel with grim determination.
Sorry.
But now I'm parked. I'm posting this. Geek mode off now. Carry on. All right, let that be the last of it. I slipped up. I made a mistake. I was trying to be helpful and interesting by making a note of something that I saw on the chase. Lesson learned. I'll never do it again.
Yeah, lesson learned. Best not to talk.
No, quite. That's quite right, yeah.
For fear of saying something wrong.
There we are. Over on YouTube, people have been very excited with the first part of the interview with Sam Clemens in Pod 193, Jamie.
Quite right, too.
Ian Dealey, says, great to hear the sons of two legends on this week's podcast. I can't wait to listen to part 2 of Jamie's interview with Samuel Clemens and hear his own wonderful memories of Gerry Anderson. My Cat's Dead says, wow, he does sound like his dad. Very good interview. Keith Gooch has sent us a nice little review saying another great episode of the Gerry Anderson podcast with all the usual cheeky banter between Richard and Jamie.
Cheeky.
Aberdeen, rather, uninspiring fab facts about unfilmed Thunderbirds rescues. An interesting interview with Samuel Clemens talking about his dad, Brian. Surprised that neither Samuel or Jamie knew that Brian did have a connection with Gerry, having written several episodes of The Protectors. Yes. Though given Jamie's fondness or lack of it for that show, maybe I shouldn't be surprised. He says, however, the episode was enlivened, well, as ever, by Chris Dale returning to form with his Randomiser review, which this week was of the supercar episode Crash Landing. Chris had me in fits with his impressions and thoughts on poor little Jimmy Gibson. Keep up the good work, chaps. And finally, for now, Adventures in a Subaru Outback posted, the question about the astronauts should be that they were named after Mercury pilots, not Gemini.
Yes, I think we probably established that we made an error there.
Yeah.
But of course, you know what's going to happen now? People will listen to that episode in like 3 months or 3 years' time, and we're still going to get messages about it. It's there
right.
forever
It's all
now.
my fault.
Yeah.
Oh, I messed up big time. That'll teach me.
Well, I should have corrected you, so we're,
No, well, there we are. We're
both in the naughty corner.
Yeah. So there we are. But do get in touch with us in all the usual ways. Send in your emails to podcast@gerryanderson.com. You can hashtag us Gerry Anderson Podcast over on Twitter and tag me, Richard and James. Him over there, I am Jamie Anderson. And him over there, it looks like he's finished his rather large Spectrum monitor screen over there.
Yeah, it's a beautiful oval shape, isn't it?
Lovely, beautiful, yeah. Yes, and comment on our YouTube channel and so on. And if I see it, I'll read it out next time.
Yes. Now, Chris is beckoning us over.
Is he?
Do you know what he's done?
What's he done now?
Well, he's tried to gazump the BFI here by doing a very special preview screening of Gerry Anderson Life Uncharted for you, me, and him.
Oh.
He's got the popcorn ready. Look, he's wearing one of those things with the little tray of ice cream.
Oh, he's got a little torch as well to show us to our seats.
Oh, Chris is very sweet. I've got some bad news, though.
That skirt's a bit short.
Yes? Yes, it is. Unexpected.
Don't bend over. Oh, God.
He's just picking up the popcorn he dropped.
Oh, I see.
Unfortunately, the doc's not quite ready yet, Chris, so we can't watch it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, he looks cross.
We'll just put an episode of Space Precinct on.
There you go. Oh, okay. I think you've just saved it.
Sorted.
But obviously, we'll have to wait and see what the randomizer is. I suppose we could watch the randomizer on the big screen.
Okay, yeah, I'll be up for that. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's watch Space Precinct.
Well, we don't know what it is yet. So to find out what it is this week, let's hand over to Chris for this week's randomizer.
I hope it's Space Precinct.
Yes, it sure is beautiful. And you say it's down here that the water mambas live?
Mambas? Oh, no, the randomizer. You see, I hid it in this underwater cave. You never know who might try to snatch it these days, but I can't remember which one.
You've shown me over 20 underwater caves, and we haven't seen one by now.
Well, yes, but if we don't find it, we won't be able to watch an episode today.
I guess I wouldn't break my heart with disappointment if I didn't see one.
No, but some of our listeners might. Aha! I think I recognize that pile of rocks. And voila! One slightly dusty randomizer.
Oh, that's great news. There's just one thing that baffles me.
Oh, what's that?
I just can't figure what you do.
Oh, well, it's very simple. You just put your finger on the button here and... yeah, see?
Now that's what I call real enterprising. Every component checked and double-checked.
Well, in theory, not so much in practice. Right, let's see what we have to... okay. Well, we're taking a trip back in time today.
Who do I have to thank for that?
Only the crew of Fireball XL5. Here's 1875.
Yeah, good.
So, welcome back to Fireball XL5 on the Randomiser with 1875, not 1975 as I mistakenly named it when I was setting up the file. Anyway, we are now outside Professor Matic's laboratory. Inside he's got Robert helping him.
Not Spanner, you 2D robot.
Well, that's not going very well. Outside is
No.
one of several guest characters for this episode.
Need to blow your top.
Goodness, Robert... Robert's dead.
Been okay in there, Professor.
Who is it?
It's Sergeant Mahoney. It's been...
You know me, I'm a fairly well-established Fireball XL5 character who's only going to appear in this one episode.
Professor!
Oh yeah, bit of oil in
Penetrating oil will soon put you right.
Robert's neck. That's gonna fix everything. Oh, and it has. Yep, Robert's up.
Professor, are you okay, Professor?
Of course I'm okay.
Who are you again? Yeah, some kind of security guard who's dressed in the uniform of an XL ship officer. There doesn't seem to be much difference to the standard uniform, except for it probably was a different colour. It looks like a different shade of grey. Oh. Okay, so Robert's dropped that on Matt's foot. Meanwhile, over at Venus's beach house...
Well, I've put Matic's dinner in the atom oven, but I don't think he'll turn up now.
He seems to...
Not if I'm offering him food from the atom oven. That doesn't sound safe.
He's so fond of his food, as a rule.
And the XL5 crew, Commander Zero and Zuni, are sitting around eating...
He won't tell us a thing.
I don't know, it looks like some kind of fruit.
Very special.
So they know that something unusual is going on with Matt. Don't know what, because he won't tell anybody, as usual.
Through. Dead on schedule.
And this episode was, oddly enough, the previous episode to the previous XL5 we saw on the very first podcast of 2022, I believe. That was the Robot Freighter Mystery. This one was the episode immediately prior, which is just one of those odd glitches of the randomizer that occurs sometimes. And of course, I've just waffled all over the big reveal of what Matt was building.
Who's to test it?
He was building a time machine.
Robert!
As you do.
And Robert, it won't hurt a bit.
Yes.
You should be honored. I'm gonna transport you back in time.
Because I'm sure sending a highly sophisticated robot who's prone to violent fits of rage into the past will go quite well. Yeah, of course Robert obeys, because what else is he going to do? It's his lot in
How
life.
far back shall we go? Well,
Yeah, this is so safe, isn't it? We're going to risk destroying the space-time continuum by sending this advanced robot back to 1875.
now the power.
Because Professor Matic has always had a hankering for the Old West, which he's never mentioned before or since.
Robert?
He's built a time machine. I can't get over this. It's one of, in the Anderson universe, it's simple. You just decide to build a time machine and... Oh, I've built a time machine as well, Professor. And I tell you, once you build it, you forget all about the fact that you've ever built it. You never use it again after that, one episode.
Oh, gee, it works!
Well, all that's happened is Robert's disappeared. You could have built a disintegrator and destroyed him.
Come!
But, yes, Matt sounds very happy about all this. And here is why I suspect this episode exists. We are now in the Old West. There are some familiar streets here and some familiar horses, so I suspect that this episode only exists to make one last bit of use of the Four Feather Falls props, puppet horses, and streets. There's not too much on the street that's immediately identifiable, but you can see a couple of wanted signs up for one Pedro the Bandit. So yeah, I suspect this episode was just written to accommodate all this stuff that was just lying around in the prop department. And here we are in
Deputy Sheriff around here. Can't I get a cup of coffee when I ask for it?
Oh. I don't know who that was. Oh yeah, that's the Deputy Sheriff. Sorry, he wasn't speaking on camera, so I got confused. But this is funny. Having been thrown back into the past... poor Robert. He's heard someone order coffee and he's immediately gone to get it. And he's just been rewarded with lots of shots for his trouble from the Deputy Sheriff.
Getting him back, I guess.
So now, I mean, no explanation of how any of this is being worked. Needless to say, you know, this is Fireball XL5. Science and Fireball XL5 are not closely acquainted. Oh, the Deputy Sheriff has locked himself in the cell, while poor old Robert is just approaching him with this coffee jug.
I've locked the door.
But, yep, the recall or whatever it is on the time machine has worked.
32-timing son of a ghost.
Made Robert disappear before the Deputy Sheriff's eyes. And it's pulled him back to 2062.
It works.
Still holding the coffee pot, which Matt is going to take as proof that his time machine works. Oh.
Well, how about taking a look at what Professor Maddox's up to?
Good idea, Commander. I'm kind of curious, too.
Do you think he'll mind?
Well, we've left him pretty much alone since we got back from patrol. I guess it's time to find out what he's up to. I'll get the hover car.
Here's the key to my workshop. Now, nobody's to go in there till I'm ready to demonstrate my new invention. Understand? It's finished then? It's finished.
I would love it if something had changed in the familiar world of XL5 following Robert being sent into the past and pulled back and nobody commented on it.
Interplanetary Patents Commissioner.
Dear. Because they're taking their reality in their hands with this thing. It's incredible.
See your new invention. He won't have wasted a journey. Now, don't...
Oh yes, and there's a commissioner from some, I don't know what, coming to look at the time machine.
Understand? Okay, Professor.
Of course, Matt hasn't told anybody else yet what he's done. His only witness to this thing being a success is Robert.
Boy, sure am tired.
Who just has several shots to his casing to show for his adventure. It would have been great fun to have had a whole episode of Robert in the western town. Aww. So Matt's in bed aboard XL5, fast asleep, having evidently fallen asleep while reading, and Robert is just sat on a chair next to him, reading a book.
Till the morning.
Give me that.
That's sweet.
Lieutenant. It's an order.
It'll be okay, Lieutenant.
Don't worry.
I won't let Zero hurt you again.
The key, Lieutenant, if you please.
Okay, Commander. But I don't know what the Professor will say. Don't touch.
Well, I suppose we could check with him, Commander, but no, I propose to just blunder in there and have a look for ourselves.
No one is to touch.
Oh, he's even dreaming about it because it's that important.
So that's what all the mystery's about.
What do you make of it, Steve?
Well, let's take a look inside.
Let's do that.
It looks like an artificial gravity test rig.
Again, I would love it if Matt had built like the ultimate disintegrator booth, because Steve, Venus and Zero have just wandered straight in there.
Look, an antique coffee pot.
No, that's a bomb.
Hot.
Don't say after all this trouble that Matt is slyly making another coffee machine.
I'll be out of a job. Oh, and of course they brought Zuni along.
Oh dear, look at Zuni. I must stop him.
He's probably going to get us into some scrape or other, but I don't care. Yep, he's pressing every button he can, including the door control.
Zuni, the door. Open the door.
No, he never mastered that one.
Understand?
Yes, this is three of our brave, brainy heroes just wander into
Isn't there a way out of this confounded contraption?
an experimental machine of which they know not what it does.
Guess we're stuck here until the morning.
Oh, if you live that long.
He causes more trouble around here.
Again, it's just such a testament to their stupidity that they would just wander into this thing. Of course, it's still set to 1875, and away they go. And this is fun.
What's happening?
We get this shot of just
And we've got no thruster packs.
the three of them passing through space. We can't see them, it's just a starfield going past.
And my clothes, they're different.
And they're commenting on what's happened to them.
Are you here?
What in tarnation's going on? My uniform, it's gone.
It reminds me a bit of... I think there's a similar scene in the Daleks' Master Plan when Stephen and Sarah and the Doctor are beamed away to... Oh, I don't know what planet it was. But, yep, they're gone.
Professor! Wake up!
90's gone to see Matt on XL5. Robert seems to have dropped his book.
Venus and Commander Zero! They went into your workshop. Oh,
Did they go into my new high-tech deatomizer disintegrator
I
booth?
gave them the key. Oh, no! Oh, don't tell me. Well, it's hard to believe, but you see, they just vanished.
Oh, no. Well, they left the door open as well. But of course, the culprit is still on the scene.
Crying, Zuni. Things are bad enough as they are. It's all your fault, Lieutenant. You had no right to let anyone, not even Steve or Commander Zero, have the key to this workshop.
Oh, they gave him an order.
For higher authority.
Oh, you're still here, are you?
I was only obeying orders.
Yeah, leave him alone.
Dad? Yeah, okay,
And here we have another scene where David Graham is, I think, playing every character.
I'm positive.
Matt and 90 and Zuni and the security guard.
Charges. Petty larceny.
Uh-oh.
Can you get them back, Professor?
Oh, because having sent his owners and friends back in time
Robert back.
to 1875, Zuni just adjusted the time machine dial. Bearing in mind he has already messed up and already been told off for it.
Down with the dials.
And he's just fiddled with the dials again in front of their very eyes, and they didn't notice. Because even Matt and 90 are wallies. And here we are, back in ye old western town.
Horse Town.
Yeah.
A bank.
Yes, I'm sure those are horses from Four Feather Falls. If nothing else, I mean, the town has got to be. But if nothing else, these horses are definitely Four Feather Falls ones, because even though I don't think you see them from the front, possibly, but they do have that same derpy look that the Four Feather Falls horses had.
Well,
And this is interesting as well. I'm not aware of
what a team.
time travel stories that have done this elsewhere. There must be more, but nothing's springing to mind at the moment, where characters have been sent back in time, and rather than remaining themselves, they've taken on the appearance and personalities of someone who would live in that time, to the extent that they don't remember who they were originally. Which, well, that's some strange music there.
Sheriff, ain't we?
Yep, Steve has just
Yes, sir.
taken the sheriff's job.
Hope you'll stick around longer than all them other sheriffs.
Well, if anyone does take a shot at me, I reckon you'll be able to...
Yes, there's a whole list of former sheriffs on the door, all of whom presumably have met some kind of sticky end.
Medicine.
He ain't. I mean, he isn't.
Yeah, Steve's taken the role of the sheriff, and Venus is Frenchy Lil, and Zero is...
But folks around these parts
is he still called Zero? Regardless, they're a pair of outlaws.
read.
Which kind of begs the question why, when Robert was sent back to the past, nothing happened to him. He didn't,
Bank in the West. Ain't never
well,
been
I don't know, end up just as a pile of spare parts or something. I suppose you could make the argument that Robert is not a living being. He doesn't have a soul, but that's a very sad argument, and I don't want to dwell on it. Oh. So, Frenchy Lil and Zero are sneaking up on...
No one there, except our old four-legged friend yonder.
Oh, they're hiding at the edge of the street. Just within Steve's peripheral field of view, but...
Sheriff, There ain't no trouble around.
He's taking to the role of sheriff with the same aplomb that he took to the role of space captain.
And all those names on the door.
Just plain bored to death.
And certainly not shot. Yeah, some of this music is reused from Supercar as well.
Breath box, Mr. Deputy Dodgem.
Yeah, how about it, Deputy?
Well, I'll play you my latest song.
It's the same song I was playing at the start of the episode.
Prettiest flower ever seen.
Yeah, this is a tune that was composed specifically for this episode. I'm not sure this ever appears again anywhere else. It's got a nice plodding melody to it. And of course it's giving Zero and Frenchy Lil the opportunity to... What are they doing? Oh, they're robbing the bank. Oh, lucky for them, nobody seems to be at the bank today. Nobody else seems to live in this town, except for the deputy sheriff and that other guy. Is that other guy the owner of the bank?
There's only just about one person could bust open my safe.
Oh, you are the owner of the bank. Okay.
And she lives.
A woman?
Oh, the smartest woman bandit ever there was. And
Right, so he's already aware of Frenchy Lil, which is the identity that Venus has taken. So,
Cedar.
have they done a quantum leap thing here? Have they leapt into the bodies of existing people? Because that doesn't track with what we actually see. And yet, Frenchy Lil is already known to the bank guy.
Wait alone?
Used to. But I heard.
I would have to assume that if they haven't quantum leaped into those bodies, then they've changed history.
Seem to know that name.
I don't know, even worse than just turning up.
That girl sure is dynamite.
Oh, that's it. Whoa! That was a fairly big explosion on the puppet set. It knocked Zero over. Even a harmonica playing couldn't cover the sound of that bank explosion. But that's it, they're in. Zero and... yeah, oh, Zero's out. So it's down to Venus to take all the money. Here comes Sheriff Steve. And Doc, who runs the bank. And the deputy sheriff. And... yeah, Venus just waited behind the door with her pistol drawn, walked out on them.
That book must have knocked him cold.
It always was heavy reading.
Zero got hit in the head by an encyclopedia.
Down, Sheriff.
Frenchy Lil.
Frenchy
Oh.
Lil.
Where's the dough, Doc? Drop
Where's the dodo?
I said, Sheriff.
Oh, Dodoc. All right.
Someone I knew once.
Ah, before we turned reality itself into a pretzel. Yeah, Doc, by the way, has dropped his pipe onto a huge pile of dynamite. I believe that is an important plot point.
I left, the machine dial was set for 1875.
Then we let this useless space monkey in the room, and I don't know what the hell's going on.
Question is, was it altered before or after they entered the time machine?
It was altered right in front of your eyes, but none of you noticed.
Zoom could tell us. You've got to get them back, Professor. You've got to. I'm doing my best. But remember, one false move, and I could possibly lose them in time forever. Now, I think we should assume they didn't alter the setting. Now, let's see. 1875.
Right, so Zuni setting the clock to 1066 was entirely pointless because it never comes into the story. Okay.
She's different somehow.
Say that once again, and I'll have to plug you.
Yep, Venus has got them all locked up in a jail cell. It's interesting seeing them in different roles like this. It does make me wonder if
She Lil never misses out on a deal.
this is sort of meant to imply that they would have been these people had they lived in this time. Anyway, Zero is now up. He's going to go look for Frenchy Lil.
I think. It's got to work.
It's just got to. Oh, he did it. Yeah, there's a lot of that redundant dialogue this week.
Dick.
So the time machine is now active.
Real soon.
Look
Who's
out!
it going to recall first? Oh, Zero slugged Venus. Oh, it's all going something.
So long, Zodiac. So long, pretty Frenchy Lil.
Ah, so Zero's making off with the money. While Venus He's unconscious on the floor.
Oh, that Zero sure is double dealer. How do we get out of here, Sheriff?
That's what I'd like to know.
Yep, first day on the job and he's already locked in his own jail cell. It was the first 15 minutes on the job. So Zero's making a way on horseback. And now they've got the time machine very slowly springing into life. Again, no mention of sending back Robert to find anybody, just with orders.
Any ideas for getting out?
Like he did earlier.
You fellas, I only wish I knew.
Oh, and he's gone. He's been beamed away by the time machine.
Not again. I can't stand it.
So that leaves Deputy Sheriff and Doc
Well, I'll be darned.
locked in the cell. Venus is still on the floor outside. Familiar Four Feather Falls background rocks. Oh. Zero has also been recalled by the time machine.
With the smoke right now. Oh, my pipe. I left it in the bank.
On top of that dynamite! Yeah. Well, Steve and Zero are back. So we've recovered all the useful people.
Back. And you too, sir, of course, Commander.
Oh.
It's like a bad dream, but I remember she got slugged by Zero.
Me? Did I do that?
I'm afraid so, Commander. But what's happened to her?
So he remembers the past, even though he wasn't himself.
It hasn't come back.
Try increasing the power.
It could burst the machine.
We'll have to take a chance on that, Professor.
Yeah, we're coming up on an odd ending here because of the way they use the time machine.
But you've got to get her back.
Increasing power in order to recover Venus because she's unconscious. I'm not quite sure how that works.
She won't take much more.
Ooh. Well, best shut it off. Do we really need Venus? I'm sure we could get by without Venus. And anyway, she's already a known outlaw in 1875, so some might argue she was always meant to be sent there. So, what do they call it? Predestination paradox.
She'll blow up!
Yes, the dynamite is burning away. Time is running out. I'm not particularly invested here. You've probably picked that up by now, but I don't really care whether they recover Venus or not. Oh, there's the dynamite, and whoa! They blew that bank to bits.
That's what I was afraid of.
Well, maybe they've wrecked the time machine. But there's Venus in the booth. Yay!
This is it, gentlemen.
And two more visitors outside.
We've broken Matic's machine.
Oh, well, he can build another one.
Down.
It doesn't take long, and it's very easy, apparently, to build a time machine.
Two gentlemen from the patent office to see the professor's
The two gentlemen from the patent office who were already supposedly on their way
Go. Yes, sir.
turn out to be the deputy sheriff and Doc. So, I don't know what you're going to want to make of that ending. I guess by increasing the power, they also pulled those guys out of 1875 and pulled them forward to our time,
I'd fly you around the
where they assumed the identities of already existing people. I have no idea. I have no idea what that ending is supposed to be about. I suspect, yeah, they've just broken the space-time continuum with that ending. Anyway, that was Fireball XL5 1875, and yeah, I've got to say, I've never been a huge fan of this one. I get the idea of, yeah, let's reuse the Four Feather Falls stuff. That's great. But, you know, Four Feather Falls was a bigger, more immersive world than that just one street and a couple of guys. It's, you know, you think Fireball XL5 doing a western, okay, great, but they don't really do much with the idea, nor the time machine, so time travel and western should have been a classic, but unfortunately, at least to me, 1875 doesn't really quite come together, unfortunately.
So not quite Space Precinct, being
No.
Fireball XL5.
No, it's the other end of the spectrum, really.
It really is. Well, speaking of other ends of spectrums,
yes.
and therefore time and time travel,
Right.
if you
Yeah.
could be accidentally taken somewhere else in time, where would it be,
Right.
Richard James?
Oh, I'm going to give a really boring actor's reply to this.
Oh, come on then.
Well, I would go to Shakespeare's Globe.
Would you?
On the South Bank, the original building.
Would you?
Because I would love to be there, imagine this, at the first performance of Hamlet. Because I want to know, what did people think? Did they watch that and think, this is the most mind-blowing piece of theatre I've ever seen? Or was it just another play? Did they know they were in the presence of something that was going to last and inspire
probably not.
400 years? No, exactly.
I bet there will have been some
That's what
moaners in the audience going, "Oh no, I'm not a fan of this at all. It's
No.
very wordy,
That's
isn't it? I
right.
mean, come on."
Yeah. Just kill him. Get on with it. Takes so
Exactly.
long making your mind up.
Oh, he's so self-indulgent, that bloke. Bloody hell.
That's right.
Yeah.
What about you? Where would you go?
Well, not there.
No.
I mean, that's no offence to Shakespeare. But I want to go further ahead. I want to see what's going to happen. I want to see what happens beyond our lifespans.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Really?
Yes,
How far?
yes.
How far are you talking? Like middle of next week? Or you say beyond our lifespans? I mean, who knows?
Yes, who does know? No, I'm thinking sort of maybe 250, 300 years' time.
Oh, yeah.
Not too far. I'm not talking to the heat death of the universe in billions of years.
Yes,
but
that would just be depressing.
yeah, no, I just want to see where things go. I mean, because if they're bad, then at least we're not there, and if they're good, then how amazing and exciting. So
Yeah. Okay. All right.
anyway, this has got a bit philosophical, hasn't it? If only I could say that.
Very unlike us, isn't it?
Yes. So enough philosophy.
Yes.
More end of podcast, I think.
Oh yes, of course. Yes.
So yes, thanks, Chris, and very lovely to watch XL5 on the big oval screen there.
Yeah, wasn't it lovely?
He'll be back next week, as will we, for pod 195 of the Gerry Anderson Podcast.
Crikey.
Gosh, we're closing in on 200 very fast indeed. Do email us with your thoughts, questions and sound files for pod 200. We'd love to hear them and play them out. Podcast at gerryanderson.com. Rate us, leave us a review, subscribe, and do tweet us, hashtag Gerry Anderson Podcast, and you can include me, I'm Jamie Anderson, him, Richard M. James, or him over there, who's still in that skirt, rather uncomfortably for all of us, Chris Darlick. That's the end of this one. Shall we go and try and encourage Chris to put some trousers on?
I really think we ought to.
Okay. Wish us luck, Podstrons. Bye.
Bye for now. Chris, no, come here. Come here.
He can run fast in that skirt.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
Oh dear. Was that a bit cruel? Yeah, I mean, not.
Oh yeah, I think he enjoys it, doesn't he?
What, wearing the skirt?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can tell he's got that glint in his eye.
Apparently so. Yes. Anyway, we'll be off to do the Gerry Anderson can shortly. It feels appropriate. Anyway, speaking of which, have you ever been in drag, Richard James?
Well, I have. I played Lady Penelope in my time and Aquamarina.
Well, that's not drag, though. That's performance.
Well, I see. You mean actually a drag? You mean like a drag queen, like a character?
Either as a drag queen or just for fun.
Well, no. I mean, I've dressed as I've played women, but which is fun. So I've done it for fun.
Who was your favourite woman to play?
Favourite woman to play? I think it was David Walliams or Volante.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, she was great. Yeah, she was a monster.
Well, I can see why you enjoyed.
And you
playing it?
You must have a beehive wig somewhere in the wardrobe. Nice little sequin number.
One of many.
Yes.
No, I mean, I don't think so. Oh. It's rather disappointing, isn't it? I'm sure. Actually, I tell you what, I've got a great photo of me in my mother's swimming costume when I was 7 years old. I should add when I was 7. I should have said that beforehand. It's not a recent thing.
All right. Well, listen, if we get enough emails to podcast@gerryanderson.com imploring us to show that photograph on the Facebook group, then we'll do it.
Okay, let's hope nobody.
But we're talking double figures at least.
At least.
At least double figures.
Yeah, well, I dug it up for the documentary, one of many kind of archive family pictures,
Great.
and it hasn't been used so far. But let's see what the response is.
I think we know very well what the response is going to be.
I'm just heading off to turn off that email address to make sure nothing works. Anyway, have a lovely week.
Yes, and you, and see you next time.
See you next time. Goodbye.
You have been listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Wasn't it fun?
You have been listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.